This week from Book of Exodus, we're going to just use, we're using 3 chapters, so we won't use all the chapters. The first one is Exodus 13, 15 through 17 up there, 18. And we started on that last night. And the subject for the week, if you were not here last night, the subject for the week is detours, dead ends, and dry home. That's what we're talking about. And what we're on tonight and last night is the discipline of detours. And I think, Pastor Clark, that I really kind of got an idea today why the Lord is sending me this route. Because when the children of Israel left Egypt, the quickest way for them to get where they needed to get was that they had gone through Philistia and they would have been in the promised land early. God, in His infinite wisdom, God, in His foreknowledge and His all-knowing, let's realize that the children of Israel, even though they had been set free from physical bondage in Egypt, had not at this time been set free from mental and spiritual bondage. And I say that because we as a people, we as African Americans in this country, even though we can vote, we can stay in a hotel, we can ride the bus, but actually we have not grown to the point where we are mentally and socially and economically free. We still depend on others to take care of us. And so the Lord led them, it said, led them not through the way of Philistia, but led them around a long way. And I was wondering, Lord, why in the world, you being God, you having all power, you having all knowledge, would you need to lead them around the long way? And as I began to think about it and apply to what's going on with us as pastors and moderators in churches, I discovered that a lot of us as pastors especially are frustrated. Because when God gives us a charge, we are so inclined to growth. We are so result-oriented. We think when we go to a church that because we are preaching and telling the truth and living the life and loving our families and paying our time, that God will automatically let the church grow. But as I was studying this, and then I discovered that, and I talked a little bit about last night, I've learned in 45 years of preaching and pastoring that some churches are not yet prepared to stand up because they've been through so much. They've been so conditioned. They've been downbeat. They've been talked about. They've been misused. They've been lied to. They've been tricked. To the point where they don't believe that any preacher is really coming from God. And so, but I looked at this and it said, but God led them. And maybe the problem in our churches is that we ought to adopt the role of Moses. The only task he had was to go down and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. God didn't say to him that I need you to lead them out. In fact, he said to Moses in the 3rd chapter, I am come down to deliver them. You speak to them. In fact, you speak to Aaron, that Aaron speak to them. And then you follow me and they'll follow you. And sometimes you won't know exactly where you're going. Just follow my lead. And so when I was looking at this and thinking about it, I'm not nearly as frustrated with the congregation I pastor because it says God led them. And they're God's people. It's God's church. They're not my people. They're not my church. They're not my neighbors. They are God's people. Come on, talk to me, man. But sometimes we think the church is our church. This is how I told my church and I told my folks, you don't have none of this. You didn't die on Calvary for nobody. You didn't get up on the 3rd day morning. You don't have the church. But my life seems to be going nowhere in a hurry.
Yes, sir.
I wonder, why can't I progress? Sometimes I felt that God was conspicuously absent. And I wonder, has God forsaken me? Now they kind of letting me down on them, amen. But I have some good news for you tonight. If you genuinely, now this is what I say, if you genuinely love Christ, if you have, it's your desire and obsession to please is that to Him. And this thing of Christianity is a Him thing.